Good morning, and welcome to another episode of How To from the TPS Southern Region. And today we are going to be exploring how to find world history primary sources. We are always getting asked about this topic, and the Library of Congress, even though it is mainly involved in looking at American history, because Library of Congress has a lot of world history resources. It's just a little bit harder, okay, maybe more than a little bit harder to find them. So I'm going to show you a few places to look that should hopefully save you some time and give you some great ideas. So let's move forward. So first of all, where are some of the main places you can go to browse and search? These are not all of them. These are just a few that I thought would be the most helpful, largely for people who might be teaching in the classroom or otherwise doing personal research. So first of all, the digital collections, of course, you can filter those out. There is a filter for world cultures and history. We're going to look at that in just a moment. Some of the best collections that have primary sources that go back to pre-modern history are in the manuscripts collections and in the maps collections. So you can also filter out for type of primary source on the left as well. Now, the main digital collection that the library has for world history is called the World Digital Library. And this used to be formatted quite differently, but now it is formatted like all the other digital collections at the library. It's actually a partnership with a lot of different libraries across the globe, submitting and sharing access to some of these works. And they cover primary sources from all over the world, lots of different countries involved. So, for instance, you can go to collection items and then again use these left-hand filters to select what date you want to look at and what part of the world you want to look at, etc. And so that's a really great collection. Going back to the digital collections, which of course you can find from the library's homepage under this tab. The filter I told you about is under topics called World Cultures and History. So this will just be pointing out the 166 digital collections that deal with world history topics. And so that's actually a lot. Some of them are going to be photographs of different parts of the world. Some of them are going to be manuscripts. Some of them are going to be kind of web archives, which might not be as helpful when you're looking for primary sources. And we're going to give that a moment to come up. So, first of all, we're going to go back to our outline for today. Another good place to look, if you're looking for curated primary sources that have already been found with and added to kind of a narrative about what they're about, there is a particular blog on the Library of Congress that deals with their international collections, and it is called Four Corners of the World, which of course is ironic because the world is round. So if you go into this Four Corners of the World blog, you can search within the blog for different place names, different subject headings, and see what kind of stories they can tell you and primary sources they can show you. Another good place to look is a little bit harder to find, but one of the digital collections is called Geospatial Applications. And within that collection, they have a lot of story maps, which are online exhibitions, which are kind of fun to follow along for students and just for regular viewers. And so within this story maps collection, you can narrow it down by subject. That's probably the best way to get to what you want. So, for example, if you're looking at Latin America, you can just check out these 5 different story maps that they have. And so the way that they're set up, they kind of, you just scroll down and the primary sources with the little blurbs will pop up. And I can see that the Library of Congress is taking a while today, so you'll have to check that out on your own. Now, I know I always talk about the research guides on these videos, but I actually don't think that going to research guides and looking for world history collections are the most effective use of your time because you get overwhelmed by too many things that are not going to take you easily to a primary source. They're going to take you to a lot of other really great resources. So if you're a researcher, it is very helpful, but if you're a classroom teacher just looking for primary sources, it's not very helpful. But there is a way to kind of get around that, and that's to go to the Research Center's page. Now, the way you get there is kind of like the way you would get to the research guides. So from the homepage, go to the Researchers tab, but instead of going down and clicking on Research Guides, just click on this Research Centers. And so within this page, you can select different research centers that focus on different areas of the world. So, for example, the African and Middle Eastern Reading Room, if you click on that, it really narrows down all of the different resources that you would be going to much more effectively than searching within the research guides. And we're going to have to give it a minute to show up. So, but they've already pulled different digital collections and other kinds of related resources that are on this topic and curated those for you. And I'm sorry to say that it is taking such a long time. We will have to come back to that. Now, I also want to show you some of the resources that have already been created that are ready to go. Um, And we actually have a lot of those actually on our website, the TPS Southern Region website. So, for example, we do have some themed guides. These are like bibliographies that'll guide you to where good locations are. We created a couple based around this book that we read as part of a virtual book group a long time ago called A History of the World in Six Glasses. So it's taking different beverages and looking at different histories through that. So, for example, this one talks about beer in Mesopotamia and Egypt. So it has a lot of different primary sources that relate to those civilizations. Greece and Rome are talked about through wine, etc. So we have a couple of those, and they deal with lots of different parts of the world. We also have a World History Links guide. It's very old, but most of these links are still good. And so it pulls out, again, see, it starts with World Digital Library. Some of the lesson plans that we had created back in the day, as well as some of the lesson plans that the Library of Congress has on its teachers page, including the Huejotzinco Codex, which is this very famous manuscript when you're talking about Spanish encounters with the indigenous cultures in these in Mexico and Central America, that part of your history curriculum. And then the Waldseemüller map lesson plan. And of course, that's one of our favorite and the library's favorite primary sources. So this will take you straight to that within the teacher's page. This is the first map that actually uses the word America on the Americas. Now, of course, it's on South America, which had been much better documented at that time, which is 1507. North America, not so much yet. Um, yes, but it doesn't have some of the other teacher resources, which I'll bring up in a minute. The Hidden Treasures videos, these are really great little like 5-minute videos that you can show in the classroom or you can work in to like student group visits. And then the primary source collections, as well as the exhibitions, because these are kind of hard to search from the exhibitions page. So these have all been pulled out from that and should take you maybe to an older version of it, but it'll still take you to the same content. And then we have this just plain list that we created for a workshop that we did specifically for world history teachers back in 2024. And so this is all the stuff that we created when we were just teaching with primary sources, MTSU, and we brought it all together in one place. So this is a really great index for using our site to find primary sources for world history. But it does not include just a regular link to our primary source sets on world history. And so within our website, which of course there's our banner, which you might be familiar with, we have primary source sets under all these different tabs. And so you just go to the tab on world history, and then you can see we've got Greece and Rome, world religions, the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformation, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War. And so these include not just sources, but also links to outside websites that have really great stuff in them about these topics. Now, they're not all primary sources, of course, because some of these were not created during the time in which they're depicting, like this picture of the printing press. Um, but as long as some of them are like this copy of the 95 Theses from 1517. And whenever there's translations available, we try to link to those as well because we know that can be a barrier. Another thing that wasn't handy on these links guides was our lesson ideas and lesson plans that are on world history. So here they're all under this part of our menu, and you can take a look at those. Now, the Library of Congress teachers page, we already showed you on our links guides where we link to the lesson plans, but there are also some primary source sets. So these are just links to those right now. So there's maps from the World Digital Library, which of course the Library of Congress maps, especially from the age of exploration, that shows the not just the knowledge of the New World growing and developing, but also the technology of cartography growing and developing. And that's just incredibly fascinating. The Spanish and Portuguese exploration in the Americas, and then this understanding the cosmos, changing models of the solar system and the universe. So, what does that one look like? This brings views of the universe from, the very before the scientific revolution through the scientific revolution. So if you're teaching Copernicus or anything from that time period, this is for you. So let me see if those, let's try this research center one more time. So of course it's coming up right now. So within the research center page for the African and Middle Eastern reading room, you can see that if you scroll down a bit, they have featured digital collections and also featured blog posts, sometimes within that Four Corners blog that I showed you before. So that's a really great way to narrow down your search. And, you can even narrow it down further using the menus on the left-hand side. So looking at another example, if we go to the Asian reading room, again, they've got featured collections and featured blog posts, and then you can just link and look at more just within that collection. So it's easier than searching straight through the blog. So that's all for today. Thank you for joining me, and be sure to go to our website, TPS Southern Region, using the link down in the description below. Thanks.